Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Eric, and today we're going to be going over training for health, fitness, performance, and goal setting. And then after that, we're going to actually go over why we need exercise to be healthy. So first I'll go over the definition of health. Health is the primary principle that we all try to live by, so to be without injury or illness. Now, to be without injury or illness, sometimes we will get sick, and sometimes we do have injuries. It's impossible to avoid them both completely, unless you're really lucky. I haven't actually met anyone who's been that lucky. So we have points of down in our health, but we strive to get back up and be healthy again, or as healthy as we possibly can be. Now, for certain portions of the population, their health will look different, and they actually have to cope with that idea. So that's where the unique individuals aspect comes from. Maybe it might be genetic, maybe it might be something that happened to them in their life that has brought their technical health down, but realistically, we can have health in different ways. So everyone is different. And then also to talk about wellness, so while at the same time, it is important to maintain our overall wellness. So those 8 factors that I have in my playlist. You need wellness. You need your social wellness. You need your intellectual wellness, which thankfully we have school in North America that is decent, but it's not the best, sadly. We have our physical wellness, which we aren't actually really taught about in school as much. We're taught to move, and CSEP's standards haven't changed much in the past 15 to 20 years. So, well, I guess, no, maybe I'll say, yeah, they've changed a little bit, but not as much as they should. And then for the rest, like occupational wellness, financial wellness, we're not really taught about that kind of stuff in school. We should, but hopefully in the future. And yeah, oh, and then there's environmental wellness. You learn about that sometimes. Yeah, so that's wellness. Balance, and now we're going to talk about balance, so is the most important factor in almost everything that we do in our life, as we can do too much of something and not enough of something as well, which can be otherwise necessary or even unnecessary. These include, so now I'm going to go through a list of things that we can under and overdo. Eating, so eat too much, and the food will store as fat cells. So think hibernation. It's kind of the same thing, but we don't hibernate. We actually work through the winter, or we're supposed to anyways. You should be moving through the winter times. Not eating enough will lead to muscular atrophy, or in other words, malnutrition. So this is when your body uses your muscles as food, which is not a good thing at all. But it's interesting to say, though, that the protein is the most sustainable source of energy. It can actually burn at a slower rate and offer more energy as opposed to fat. So fat is the lowest sustainable amount of energy, which it's not very sustainable at all, and protein is the highest, the middle being carbohydrates. And carbohydrates is what we eat in order to gain energy. So that's a pretty interesting fact. Yeah, so using protein is like a last-ditch survival effort, and we try to avoid that as much as possible. Hydration, so drinking too much water can cause oversaturation of cells in your body, leading to overhydration. I talked about that in a previous video, though not drinking enough water will lead to dehydration. So overhydration is very uncommon in our society. It can happen, but we're more worried about dehydration usually, but that's why overhydration isn't really talked about. Exercise. So exercising too much will lead to overtraining and inevitable injury. We talked about that in the beginner's guide, I'm pretty sure, or that first video, general exercise knowledge. And exercising too little will lead to issues later on in life, such as immobility, lack of fundamental practice in basic movements, or just conditioning of those movements. Muscular atrophy, so your muscles will actually disappear because of lack of use. If you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah, that's the saying. Fatigue, as well as possible mental health concerns. So you usually become like more tired more easily So fatigue sets in easier, and you just have less, I would say less um, confidence. You're not as confident. So when you don't exercise, when you're not taking care of yourself, you lack that form of physical confidence, which can also affect your mental health. Um, Sitting. Easily one of the biggest problems in our society. Sitting too much can lead to bone, joint, muscle pain and atrophy, poor posture, poor cardiovascular circulation. So while sitting, you're sitting on a muscle, the glutes. That's a pretty big muscle, and when you're cutting off that circulation, it can actually impact the nerve as well. So if you lose sensation in your leg while you're sitting, it's probably because you've been sitting too much and the muscle just can't take it anymore and collapses in on the nerve. Just in a more short-term way, but it can have long-term effects as well. Standing, the other side, or the other end of the double-edged sword. Standing too much can cause issues such as poor posture, varicose veins, so large and twisted veins around legs, ankles, and feet. It can happen in the upper body, but it's more common in the lower body just because moving, like walking, actually helps to prevent that kind of stuff, but it can happen in the upper body too. So preventing adequate circulation to the lower half of the body, as well as eating. So eating based on social norms rather than based on personal activity levels. So when you don't exercise and sit a lot, but you still eat as if you were moving, then you'll gain weight. And you will lose weight when you start moving, but you also have to lower your food intake in order to see, I guess you could say, a quicker decrease in weight, but that really does depend on your activity levels, what you're doing. You could probably maintain that food intake when you start moving more, but again, quicker results, you probably want to lower intake for a short period of time and then maybe increase again. Really just depends on what you're doing. So those are some points that I have listed in terms of balance. So now what I'm going to talk about is the SMART goal. I don't really use it too often, but it is a simple tool to come up with the idea and try your best to stick to it. So it's used to help to understand your own goal. So goal setting is something that we don't do unless we're instructed to, or unless we have the self-discipline to do it ourselves. And that really does take the learning and understanding and then applying it. So actually taking action and doing something about yourself, your own physical ability, your own functionality. So, or you could probably use it for other things, but we mostly use it for exercise. So, or I do anyways. So, SMART stands for, so the S stands for specific, so the specific goal that you're trying to achieve. Measurable, so can you measure it and can you record that measurement? Attainable, is it attainable? Can you actually reach that goal? Realistic, is it a realistic goal? I know that they're both the same, attainable and realistic, but the whole point of this is to get you to think about it more, get you to think about your goal. And you don't want to overthink it, you kind of want to get into it at some point, but to think about it is still a good thing. And then time, how much time will it take to do or to get there? So you could put both. So how much time would it take each time you go in, and how much time will it take to reach that goal that you really want to achieve? So there's a bunch of different factors in time, but we'll get to that in a second. Now we're going to talk about fitness. So we've talked about health, now we're going to talk about fitness. Fitness really does bring Rome wasn't built in a day into fruition. That's how I have it written here, but you can't get fit without having health. You can actually I'll rephrase that. You can be fit without health. But you want to try to have both, just so that you don't hurt yourself in the future. So each step taken is a personal experience and educational learning curve that will help define and develop how you view and act on your physical health. And so for those who take the easy way out, those are people that are going to have a hard time with their health, but they're going to be fit, but not completely fit. They're not going to have that balance that creates real fitness. It'll probably in any sense be temporary, because when you take the easy way out, it's usually a temporary solution. I don't see those types of solutions being long term. The FITT principle, so FITT, is used to plan out the way you would exercise in a short-term period. So frequency is the first part of FITT, so how much you're exercising and resting. Intensity, so the amount of effort you are putting into the exercise. Time, so how long your exercise is. And type, so the specific practice that you're actually doing. And then what I'll do is I'll actually give you this page, so that this is the template that I have, so that you can fill out the FITT principle for yourself. It's a pretty basic way of looking at what you want to achieve or what you want to do, but you should have different types of FITT goals throughout different parts of your program or your periodization. Because if you do the same kind of if you do the same frequency or the same intensity too often, you could hurt yourself. Doing alternating intensities primarily and frequencies can actually really help with the goal itself. And then performance. So performance is really after you've achieved health and fitness, depending on your goals, you may want to enhance your ability to focus more on this on a specialty movement, lift, skill, and or ability. So it really just depends on what you want to achieve. If it's really specific or if it's really generalized. But I mean, performance can be seen in a bunch of different perspectives. So the performance is really cool because you can do really anything in a performance manner, but it's unique to you and you can compete as well. Compete against other people, against other teams. That's sort of what makes it fun and unique to everyone, is that it really depends on what you want to do. But then you would focus on it, but then you would have moments of where you wouldn't focus on it, where you would want to get away from it and focus on something else. Take it easy on yourself. Again, take some breaks, because breaks are where you're going to see the real growth. Yeah. And so and now this is the last part of the training for health, fitness, performance, and goal setting page. In order to succeed at improving your performance and ability, you would need to plan your routine using a periodization or program plan, which is a long-term method of planning everything you do, including rest, proper organization in your routine, then gives you a solid general functional base and allows you to properly condition yourself for more advanced abilities and or specific skill sets. Yes, organization is important, and if you don't have a good organized routine, you probably won't be as successful. You'll be less successful than the people you may be competing against or trying to be like. I don't like saying be like, because you shouldn't be like anyone else, but I mean, people have goals, right? People want to be like other people, but some people don't. Some people want to just be themselves, which is great. It's a great way to think. If you do want to be like someone, don't try to be like them. Try to achieve a similar goal that they achieved. Don't be like them, because try to be yourself. So now I'm going to be talking about why we need exercise. Everyone needs exercise. Doesn't matter how light or how heavy. You need to move. You need to take care of your body, and you can do whatever you want based on you. You can do yoga. Now, yoga does have some strengthening aspects, but there are some yoga instructors out there that really just focus on flexibility, mobility. Well, like I said in my last video, that can be a bad thing. But if your yoga instructor or practice involves some strengthening as well, that will help with that balance. You need that balance. All right, so what happens when we do exercise? So the body uses mostly simple sugars to create a contracting muscle, to allow the heart and everything in our body to work, to pump, to allow us to live. That is usually broken down from the foods that we eat, though. So that's what we need in order to have energy, is glucose or glycogen. So it's something that's broken down from the more complex foods that we eat to contract muscles and restore our short-term energy stores. Yep. This helps with energy loss. So when we exercise, we are helping with the weight loss process. It's not really the main weight loss tool, though. You can't exercise the weight away. You can, but it really does come down to nutrition and diet as well. How much you're eating, what kind of foods you're eating, the quality of the food. That I would say is the bigger determining factor for weight loss. So 2, after moderate to intense exercise, muscles will undergo microtearing. This will require 2 to 6 days of rest per the specific muscle that you have exercised. DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness, muscles will then after the exercise, like after that period of recovery, will become stronger. But it might take a little bit more time to get stronger after doing other specific things. So like I said, variation in your exercise is very important. Muscles will become bigger and stronger with the right programming and rest protocols. I already mentioned that. 3, mood improvement. So when you exercise, you're really just starting to take care of yourself. Now, if you're injuring yourselves, your mood might go down. But when you start feeling good and getting strong again, your mood always increases. Now, I've seen people who have lost complete confidence in themselves. They have complete anxiety because of doing too much, doing too little, and they just became used to it, and it became that became their reality. You can improve. You just need to learn the right stuff, and you need to learn that it's not all about the work. You don't always have to be productive with exercise. You also have to take breaks, as I keep saying in every single video. 4, lung capacity and your heart strength will also improve. So that's more like the cardiovascular stuff. So when you're doing running, walking upstairs, or going for a walk on a trail, that will help with your lung capacity and heart strength. Now, obviously, intensity will be a factor here. If you push yourself a little every so often, that's a great thing. But you also have to take it easy, too, to allow your joints and muscles to recover, because it does use your muscles when you're running. You're putting a lot of impact into your calves because they gate you forward, also into your hips, a lot of pressure going into your spine as well, as gravity pulls down on each spinal column as you're running. You need rest from that too. Everyone thinks that you need to run all the time to see a good result. No. You don't need to run that much. Maybe like once every 1 or 2 weeks, then take a break. And maybe you could do it lighter, but do something else too. That's where variation comes in. Will usually increase. You will always need more oxygen when starting with exercise for the first time. So you will breathe heavier if you're doing weightlifting exercises, or when you're running. You will breathe more because you require more oxygen. Your body is struggling to deal with what you're doing, so it's having a hard time coping. Over time, you'll notice that you become more efficient and you breathe a little less. You actually recover quicker, so you don't need to breathe heavy as long after you're done what you're done. You just recover quicker, which is a great thing because it means that you are becoming more efficient and better at doing what you're trying to do, which is great. So actually, something that I mentioned in like a few takes ago, I just keep forgetting to say too. Muscles pump our blood back to our heart, while the heart pumps blood away towards the muscles. So we actually need a mix of strong muscles in order to pump blood back to our heart, but then we also need a strong heart in order to effectively and efficiently pump our blood away back to our muscles and to our brain. So you'll just notice that creates confidence, but it also creates a stronger mind. Yeah, it creates really a stronger mind and body. So I mentioned here number 5, stitch in the side. So it's a form of pull that you get in the diaphragm region. It's more like the transverse abdominis pulling, and it really affects the diaphragm, and it's really hard to breathe. It's a common diaphragm pull spasm, especially after untrained, unconditioned physical labor, or, I didn't mention it here, but overtrained physical labor as well. So when you do too much in a specific direction, and one muscle is having a hard time stabilizing, and then the other muscle cannot work properly, so it pulls. It could also happen the other way too. So Pulls are strange. I hate them. I think everyone does. Injuries sometimes happen initially due to an unconditioned state. So the only real way to prevent it is to understand how the muscles work. And not everyone has the money to pay for a trainer for that. So like that's a reason why I'm putting these videos up. But those muscle imbalance videos will come in the future. There's a lot of different ways to have imbalances, but if you at least have all of the tools to understand how your body works, then it becomes easier to figure out. I think, anyways. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something that I think could have an easier understanding if we put more stuff like this out. I don't know. There's quite a few people out on YouTube who put stuff out for free, which is great. But yeah, it's voluntary, I guess you could say. Yeah, voluntary. You don't have to do anything, but it's nice to help another person out. So that's why I'm doing this. So 6, improved blood circulation can actually help to improve intestinal digestion and improve general absorption of nutrients that you eat, hence putting your foods to better use. So you have better circulation, everything's working better, blood reaches your digestive system more efficiently, effectively, and rips the nutrients out from your digestive tract more efficiently. So you're using what you eat more. So that's pretty much as easy as it gets. You do more, you can eat more, maybe not more, but you'll put better use to your food. So 7, brain blood circulation. This one I already mentioned. You'll feel more awake, less drowsy, and feel better about yourself. So confidence. So 8, joint strength improvement, which is very connected to so your joints are connected to your circulatory system, even your bones are. Everything will improve. In fact, bone density will also improve, because when you weightlift, when you exercise, you're putting pressure on everything, not just the muscles, and the bones also have to respond and say, I have to make up for what the muscles are doing, and so I have to get stronger. So that's why calcium is an important thing to make sure that you're eating as well. Usually you get that from your veggies, and I guess you can get it from supplementation, but veggies, not fruits, yeah, mostly veggies. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm not a dietitian by any means. Kidney and liver function improvement, skin and facial acne improvement. So again, better circulation, but if you eat things like sugar, I didn't mention this in the first one, but yeah, you could eat simple sugars, and then they'll act as glucose in a more responsive manner, or like Gatorade, for example. If you drink Gatorade, that's an easy sugar to drink and get energy from, but you're going to have a downward energy hit. I didn't say that well, but you're not going to feel good after drinking the Gatorade. You'll have an initial, I can do stuff, but then it'll be a steep drop in performance after a short period of time. And then 10, people will notice that you're exercising. So that's what happens when you do exercise. People will notice, and usually in a good way, which is a good thing. It might take us a while to feel that way, but other people will notice and sometimes say something. So it helps. Okay, so what happens to muscles, our body, if we don't exercise? So atrophy, muscle strength loss. So 1, if not doing your activities of daily living, so that includes work, in the first 1 to 4 weeks, it's not really bad. In fact, it can be a good thing. That rest can be good for your body. Usually it is if you're working a lot or doing a lot in the gym. So 5 to 8 weeks, however, strength loss can start. This isn't necessarily a great thing, and the effects are slower per conditioned individual, but when we do not train after a certain period of time, we will then start becoming weaker, because our muscles will, again, I'll say this again, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So So 9 to 24 weeks, you would then start to see this onset of muscle loss. It's not really the best thing because we need muscles to pump blood back to the heart, and you would also probably lose the cardiovascular strength as well. That's not good. That's why you need to maintain activity levels. And then 25 plus week, your bone density would start to lose. You'd actually start to lose it a little sooner before as well, but it's dependent upon your conditioning level. So number 2, you would then have decreased blood circulation, increased injury risk, tighter muscle joints, and you're lazier and less motivated. So not really good points. If it's absolutely necessary, though, to take a longer break, this will still happen. It's not really something that you can avoid if you absolutely need to, but then starting off really basic becomes more important, and working your way back up one step at a time. That's why sometimes it's better to work with a professional to help you through those stages. 3, higher weight water retention ability due to lack of functional exercise to utilize energy. So you need energy to actually make those or to put those things that we eat and drink to better use. But if you're not moving, then those things won't really be put to good use. You're still living, which is great, but you're not as efficient as you could potentially be. But then if you're injured, then take your time to recover, because injuries sometimes take a little bit of time or a long amount of time, just based off of, depending on what you did, or how much you did, or et cetera, et cetera. 4, so higher mortality rate if exercise routine is not at some point reestablished. So this doesn't happen immediately. You don't just die because you didn't exercise. But what will happen if you don't exercise for years on end, you could see a negative effect as you get older. And exercise has been proven to actually improve our lifespan, which is incredible. I don't think the squirrel likes me. Going crazy. So it just means that we need exercise to have a longer lifespan. But what could also happen is if you are unhealthy about the way that you achieve your fitness goal, that could also impact your mortality rate. If you take steroids, for example, you're going to have a lower higher mortality. You're not going to live as long. You're going to feel bad. And we've also heard about a lot of people who have died under the age of 30 and 40 just from taking steroids. It affects their heart. It actually enlarges the valves in the chambers of your hearts, which actually makes it harder to circulate blood, because there's no room for the blood. And then other things can happen, like fatty liver syndrome, or fatty liver. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but lots of things can happen due to steroid use. Stay away from them because they're just not worth it unless you need to take them for like things that doctors would recommend it to you for. Like cancer, for example. You need steroids for certain cancer treatments, I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm not a doctor, but listen to your doctor when it comes to those types of things. Those are the types of things that I am completely out of scope for. So why we need stretching. So stretching is also important. It's a smaller part here, but even if we don't already exercise, we need a little bit of stretching, but we also need exercise, not to say that you don't need it. So muscles tighten over time and through time and use. So even if you don't really use your muscles that much, they will still get tight. That's why you need to stretch. Like right now, I probably need to do a stretch after. You need to, so strength usage dictates stiffness as well. So if you're using your muscles more, again, that'll dictate how much you need to stretch. And I wouldn't say that massages are good long-term, they're not good long-term alternatives, mainly because you're not really relieving that joint tension. A person is really just massaging out the kink, and that's not long-term. That's not an effective way to make the muscles looser. That's why usually after a massage, you have to go back almost immediately, and so it's good for the massage therapist, not really good for you. So that's why it's a grand benefit to learn how to stretch your muscles in both dynamic stretching and static stretching, or mobility flexibility. So the importance of generalized balance, the beginner's guide to, yep, so you need generalized balance. I've already talked about that. Fat versus muscle. So fat is adipose tissue. It's not the same thing, and it does not convert into muscle. That's something that I hear all the time. Turn fat into muscle. That's not how that works. Because too much fat is actually a bad thing, and fat is an organ. Fat lives off of our body, and it uses, well, it is energy, but it takes more energy to have fat than it does to not have fat. But we still need fat in order to be healthy. Oh, lost my page. So now, muscle is skeletal muscle, or tissue, skeletal tissue. Too little, it equals a bad thing. So if you don't have enough skeletal muscle tissue on your body or to work with you, that can be a bad thing. Because like I said, muscle pumps blood back to the heart. So that's why having too much fat is bad, but not having enough muscle can also be a bad thing. So exercise is 100% necessary. We don't need, I'm going to rephrase that. We need it to maintain our health and to get fit. We don't have to be performance athletes to be fit, but a little bit of performance doesn't hurt every so often to push ourselves and see what we're capable of. You can see what you're capable of as a young person or as an older adult, but as you get older, you just have to be careful about how you get into exercise, because if you had a lot of functional work in your daily living throughout your life, and you didn't do anything about it, like stretch or exercise or do anything to take care of it, that in itself will cause problems. So that's why you would need possibly some help and some guidance on how to do it safely and effectively. So anyways, I'm done talking. That's everything that I had to talk about. I'm not going to ramble too much. Have a great one. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.